Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Chapter 3. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. Janie had no chance to know things, so she had to ask. Did marriage end the cosmic loneliness of the unmated? Did marriage compel love like the sun the day? In the few days to live before she went to Logan Killick's and his often mentioned 60 acres of land, Janie asked inside of herself and out. She was back and forth to the pear tree, continuously wondering and thinking. Finally, out of Nanny's talk and her own conjectures, she made a sort of comfort for herself. Yes, she would love Logan after they were married. She could see no way for it to come about, but Nanny and the folks had said it, so it must be so. Husbands and wives always loved each other, and that was what marriage meant. It was just so. Janie felt glad of the thought, for then it wouldn't seem so destructive and moldy. She wouldn't be lonely anymore. Janie and Logan got married in Nanny's parlor of a Saturday evening with 3 cakes and big platters of fried rabbit and chicken. Everything to eat in abundance. Nanny and Miss Washburn had seen to that. But nobody put anything on the seat of Logan's wagon to make it ride glorious on the way to his house. It was a lonesome place, like a stump in the middle of the woods where nobody had ever been. The house was absent of flavor, too. But anyhow, Janie went on inside to wait for love to begin. The new moon had been up and down 3 times before she got worried in mind. Then she went to see Nanny in Miss Washburn's kitchen on the day for beaten biscuits. So let's pause right there and talk about what does Janie expect out of her marriage with Killick's. So based upon her own conjectures and her talk with Nanny and all the questions she's asked and the answers she's received, she believes that marriage must mean love. If she's married Logan Killick's, then that must mean she'll eventually love him, because that's what marriage is. And so based upon what everyone is telling her, she will fall in love with Killick's after they're married. However, it's been 3 months and she doesn't feel any love for him. So she starts to get worried. And now she's gone to talk to her nanny about her concerns. So let's see what happens. So back to the bottom of this page. Nanny beamed all out with gladness and made Janie come up to the breadboard so she could kiss her. Lord a mercy, honey, I's sure glad to see my chile. Goin' inside and let Miss Washburn know you're here. How is that husband of yours? Janie didn't go in where Miss Washburn was. She didn't say anything to match up with Nanny's gladness either. She just fell on a chair with her hips and sat there. Between the biscuits and her beaming pride, Nanny didn't notice for a minute. But after a while, she found the conversation getting lonesome, so she looked up at Janie. What's the matter, sugar? You ain't none too spry this morning. Oh, nothing much, I reckon. I come to get a little information from you. The old woman looked amazed, then gave a big clatter of a laugh. Don't tell me you've done got knocked up already. Let's see, this Saturday is 2 months and 2 weeks. No'm. I don't think so anyhow, Janie blushed a little. You ain't got nothing to be ashamed of, honey. You's a married woman now. You got your lawful husband, same as Miss Washburn or anybody else. I'm all right that way. I know there ain't anything there. You and Logan been fussin'? Lord, I know that grass-gut, liver-lipped man ain't done nothing to took and beat my baby already. I'll take a stick and salivate him. No'm, he ain't ever talked about hitting me. He says he never mean to lay a weight of his hand on me in malice. So let's pause and ask, what has Janie come to ask her nanny about? So Nanny's made some assumptions. At first, she thinks that Janie might be pregnant, and Janie says that's not possible. And then she thinks that maybe Logan is beating Janie, and Janie says that's not the case. Logan hasn't raised a hand against her. So what is it that Janie's come to talk to Nanny about? Let's see. And then he totes it inside the kitchen for me. Keeps both water buckets full. Don't expect all that to keep up. He ain't kissing your mouth when he carries over you like that. He's kissing your foot, and that a man who kissed foot long. Mouth kissing is on the equal, and that's natural. But when they go and bow to love, they soon straighten up. Yes'm. Well, if you do all that, what you come in here with a face long as my arm for? 'Cause you told me I must gotta love him, and I don't. Maybe if somebody was to tell me how, I could do it. You come here with your mouth full of foolishness on a busy day? Here you got a problem, you lean all your bondays and big protections, and ever got to tip their hat at you and call you Miss Killix, and you come worrying me about love? But Nanny, I want him sometime. I want to want him sometimes. I don't want him to do all the wantin'. If you don't want him, you sure oughta. Here you is with onlyest organ in town, amongst colored folks in your parlor. Got a house bought and paid for, and 60 acres of land right up on the big road. Lord have mercy. That's the very prong all of us black women gets hung up on, this love. That's what got us pullin' and haulin' and sweatin' and doin' from can't see in the morning till can't see at night. That's how come the old folks say that they been a fool don't kill nobody. It just makes you sweat. I bet you want some dressed up dude that's got to look at your sole of his shoes every time you cross the street to see whether he's got enough leather there to make it across. So right now Nanny's yelling at Janie. And why is Nanny so mad at Janie? So Janie has come because she doesn't love Killix yet. And she wants somebody to tell her how to love him, because she doesn't just want him to want her, she wants to want him in return. And that's not happening. And so Nanny tells her that she should just be grateful for the husband that she has and not to worry about love. And so that's what Nanny's yelling at Janie about, essentially, that Janie's ungrateful because Janie's married Killix, who has a lot of land and a lot of money, and Janie's essentially done well for herself. She's become kind of the richest woman in the area amongst the black community. And so Nanny thinks that she's being ungrateful. So let's see where the conversation goes from here. You can buy and sell as them with what you got. In fact, you can buy and give them away. I ain't studying about none of them. At the same time, I ain't taking that old land to heart neither. I could throw 10 acres of it over the fence every day and never look back to see where it fell. I feel the same way about Mr. Killix too. Some folks never was meant to be loved, and he's one of them. How come? 'Cause I hates the way his head is so long one way and so flat on the other side, and that pound of fat on the back of his neck. He never made his own head. You talk silly. I don't care who made it. I don't like the job. His belly's too big too. Now, and his toenails look like a mule's foot, and that ain't nothing in the way of him washing his feet every evening before he comes to bed. Ain't nothing to hinder him, 'cause I places the water for him. I'd rather be shot with tacks than turn over in the bed and store up the air while he's there. He don't even mention nothing pretty. He don't even never mention nothing pretty. She began to cry. I want things sweet with my marriage, like when you sit under a pear tree and think ain't no use you crying, Janie. Grandma done been long a few roads herself, but folks is meant to cry about something or another. You better leave things the way they is. You's young yet, no telling what might happen before you die. Wait a while, baby. You'll change your mind. So why does Janie believe she'll never love Killix? So Janie complains that she doesn't like the way he looks. And remember, Janie's 16 or 17 years old at this time. And so the fact that he's a much older man who's not very attractive, that's a big deal for her. And she doesn't want to be with someone who physically repulses her. But Nanny tells Janie to be patient because Janie's young, she has a lot of life left to live, and she doesn't know kind of like what could possibly happen. So Nanny wants her to be patient. All right, so now on this next page, how does Janie change at the end of the chapter? Let's see. So Nanny sent Janie along with the stern or I think that should say mind, but she dwindled all the rest of the day as she worked. And when she gained the privacy of her own little shack, she stayed on her knees so long she forgot she was there herself. She was praying. There is a basin in mind where words float around on thought, on sound and sight. Then there is a depth of thought untouched by words, and deeper still a gulf of formless feelings untouched by thought. Nanny entered into this infinity of conscious pain again on her old knees. Towards morning she muttered, Lord, you know my heart. I done the best I could. The rest is left to you. She scuffled up from her knees and fell heavily across the bed. A month later, she was dead. So Janie waited a bloom time, and a green time, and an orange time. So she's describing the spring and the summer and the fall. But when the pollen again gilded the sun and sifted down the world, she began to stand around the gate and expect things. What things? She didn't know exactly. Her breath was gusty and short. She knew things that nobody had ever told her. For instance, the words of the trees and the wind. She often spoke to falling seeds and said, hope you fall on soft ground. because she had heard seeds saying that to each other as they passed. She knew the world was a stallion rolling in the blue pasture of ether. She knew that God tore down the old world every evening and built a new one by sunup. It was wonderful to see it take form with the sun and emerge from the gray dust of its making. The familiar people and things had failed her, so she hung over the gate and looked up the road towards way off. She knew now that marriage did not make love. Janie's first dream was dead, so she became a woman. So how does Janie change at the end of this chapter? So on this page, in the first paragraph of this page, Nanny dies. So Nanny prays to God that Janie will be okay, and she says that she's done the best she could by Janie, and we can tell she's still worried, and then a month later she dies. And so Janie is without her family at this point. And so Janie waits a year to find happiness in her marriage, but after the spring and the summer and the fall, she still doesn't love Kylix, and she's still not happy. And so Janie, just as she did with the pear tree, she looks to nature for answers. And she knows that there's a new life out there for her. Just as she sees the seasons start anew and the days start anew, she knows that her life can start anew, and she finds hope in that. And so she lets go of her childhood dreams of love and becomes a woman, where she starts looking for a new dream. So this is kind of interesting. If we think back to the beginning of the book, Zora Neale Hurston posits that men chase a single dream, and women forget the things they want to forget and remember the things they want to remember. And so here we see Janie forget her past dream, and she creates a new one because her life isn't delivering on the dream that she had when she was 16 years old. And so now that she's probably 18 at this time, she's decided that she needs to find a new dream because that's what she has found in nature. And so we will see in our next chapter, chapter 4, what it is that she finds. Thanks so much for hanging out with me during chapter 3, and I will see you for chapter 4 because you also need to listen to that one. All right, thanks so much. Bye.